Welcome back to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hediger. I've really enjoyed this podcast over the last few months because we've done such a deep dive into different local nonprofits. And during all these conversations, I'm always humbled and excited to hear about the work that they are doing, not just in the community, but what they are doing together to support each other. And that is definitely what is happening within the walls of the Little Bit Foundation. Today's episode is dedicated to the work that the Little Bit Foundation does. And as I have heard said many times, there is nothing little about the Little Bit Foundation. And the gal who knows that all too well is sitting across from me right now, the CEO, the leader of the Little Bit Foundation, Miranda Walker-Jones. Miranda, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Laura. It's always good to see you.
We had you on Great Day St. Louis this morning because this week is a really big week for both of us. Yes. The 9th annual Laura's Run for Kids benefiting the Little Bit Foundation is this Saturday. For people not familiar, what can they expect?
You know, this is probably one of the most family-oriented races that you'll ever experience. So it's fun. It's really a timed race. We're working with Big River Running, and they'll be out there with all the bibs and all the things. However, you also have Fred Bird and Louie, and you'll have, look, I'm sorry, it's a run, but I talk food because that's just who I am. Chick-fil-A, Donut Drive-In, the Kolaches will be out there. So we have breakfast for you. Come out, get breakfast. We'll have some fruit, bananas, apples, different things of that nature. But it's such a fun opportunity to see kids get out there and just have fun and enjoy life and running. And, you know, and everybody who's running and walking, we have a lot of walkers too. All the money is going back to benefit the Little Bit Foundation and all the things that we do in the schools.
And that's what's so cool. It was intentionally called Laura's Run for Kids for a big reason. It is all about the kids. And over the 9 years that we have done this, including 2 during the pandemic, a focus has been getting kids that Little Bit serves to the race course on a Saturday, which is a feat in itself. Why is it so important to have an event that the kids can participate in?
You know, there's so many things that are going on in the schools right now. A Saturday morning of joy, you know, getting some exercise in that beautiful park. We'll have Girls on the Run out there. You know, this is what they do. We've had Let Them Run, which is a boys running group from time to time. We also have a lot of our schools are getting up. They're getting on buses. They're coming out there. We have a couple superintendents. I know the superintendent Riverview is going to be out there handing out medals. So it becomes a community event. It becomes us taking care of each other, right? Kids that are pouring back into other kids, you know, because we have kids that are not from the schools that we serve that are actually running. And it just provides a moment of just solidarity and a community wellness opportunity and just a moment of joy. We'll have a DJ out there. DJ Nooney's going to be there. We have lots of clowns. We have other booths. So it's not just the run. We'll also have health and wellness opportunities out there. I think Sensei is going to be out there doing some karate moves. It's just an opportunity for us to come together as a community and share some joy.
And that is so important because I hear from people saying, well, I'd really like to go, but I don't run. And I said, that's okay. You don't have to run. You can walk. If you want, you can crawl. Wouldn't recommend it, but you definitely could do that. But just to come out and be together on a beautiful morning, a great setting, and get to know each other.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a great morning. So I've thanked the weather people. You guys have done amazing. Channel 4 weather, shout out to all of you all because it wasn't looking good. A couple of days ago, I was like, oh, it looks a little rainy. And it was now it's like 70 and sunny. So I don't know who they called or what closet they went into, but they did whatever they did to get this weather together. So thank you so very much.
Phone call straight from Steve Templeton to the weather god saying, please make this happen because we don't want Miranda and Laura on my case.
Yes, no sleeves rolled up that day. I need all the sleeves down. I need,
the jacket on.
Keep it calm, keep it together.
Even in the first 5 minutes of us speaking together, though, Miranda, you have already named all these different groups and people, and that is something that I've learned a lot about really in the last decade, that the nonprofit world might be the greatest team sport there is.
Absolutely.
What do
Absolutely.
you see?
It has to be a team sport. It's about collective impact. This is not a one-on-one sport, and it is definitely a sport because from the grant writing all night long to doing the work of the mission, it takes really dedicated, amazing people that really care and love the community that they serve. I say all the time, this is not a job, it's a mission. Mm-hmm. And everybody a little bit knows that, this is mission driven. This is really about getting the work done. And when you have as many things as we have to deal with, it's like an onion. You peel back one layer and you peel back another. All of it makes you cry, right? Mm-hmm. In order for us to make that impact, you have to have multiple partners. So all the things that we do, we have a whole child model. So we work with health and nutrition, we work with essentials, wellness and family support, college career readiness, as well as academic enrichment. We're not experts in all of these things, but we have experts in this community that help us tie it all together. Mm-hmm. So health and nutrition, St. Louis Area Food Bank, big partner. Operation Food Search, we can't do it without them. Also in health and nutrition, we work with St. Louis University nurses and IFM medicine. So they come out, they do physicals, they do immunizations. All of that supports that health and wellness block that we have. And when you think about the schools, we have a partnership with the schools, we have relationships with the kids, and so we're able to bring these other organizations in that help us to do that work. So again, you have that block, but you have academic support. We work with STEM Lingo. We've talked about, us working with Aisha Bowe, who was an astronaut, and her bringing her program in. We have a big Lego competition coming up May 2nd, that we are able to have 6-7 teams that are going to be competing against each other. But even that day, we're doing a health fair at the same time as the Lego team competition. We're also going to have Ameren comes in sometimes and brings their little the Ameren dog that I'm a little afraid of because it's kind of creepy, but it's cool, right? Okay. Creepy cool. Yeah. Come see the creepy cool dog. But we, Ameren is a big supporter of what we do. Boeing is another big supporter. They help us to do the STEM Lingo. We're doing a panel with engineers to get more kids involved in engineering. We do lunch and learns at 3 area high schools that Boeing supports. So this is such a community effort. And those are only 2 of the blocks. I mean, we still have other, not other nonprofits that help us tremendously. St. Louis Area Diaper Bank, they help support. If I start naming them all, I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody, but I just know that we cannot do any of this work by ourselves. And us coming together is what makes that bigger collective impact.
For people who have heard about the Little Bit Foundation, though, but maybe hasn't followed the story as closely, I am just amazed at the growth. Mm-hmm. This year is 25 years, yes. And it all started as a single coat drive.
It's a coat drive.
And to go from that one event to, as you mentioned, the whole child model and also kind of the whole family model too. Mm-hmm. It is amazing, the growth in just 25 years.
It is. You're right. It started from a coat drive. Rose and Elise, were 2 soccer moms, and they came together to do a coat drive. And when, Rose went out into the schools and saw that the need was so much greater, she started rallying her friends around, and her and Elise started collecting coats. And we were in a closet at CBC. We had a little office at Macomb. At one point, we were located in Color Art. So it just kept getting bigger and bigger until we got our own building. And, we've evolved with time as you learn more about the needs of the community and finding out, what is it that we can do to really make a difference. The essentials are crucial, right? If you're cold, if you're hungry, you cannot sit in a classroom, pay attention and learn. So those are so important, right? However, the academic support, getting kids excited about learning, right? The STEM lingo, like talking to people about being engineers, going out and doing Legos. All this helps to support them in the classroom because they're now getting more excited and interested about what they're learning. And then you talk about health and wellness. If you're not healthy, you're not learning. Health is your wealth, right? If you don't have your immunizations, you can't go to school. They purge kids because they don't get their physicals. And so this helps them to stay in school. There's just so many different things. And I'll tell you the last thing that we added was wellness and family support, which you mentioned. It's also wrapping around the families. If you go home and you don't have lights on at home, or, one of our parents doesn't have a job, or we don't even have a home to go to, there is no way all of these other things matter as much as if you can get the whole family supported and wrapped around. Now you go home and there's a meal on the table, mom has a job, we have transportation, we have case managers now that will help parents to figure out what is it that we need to do to get our family moved to the next level. And that's going upstream. It's not pulling a baby out of the water when they come downstream. Mm-hmm. It's finding out why are they getting put in the stream in the first place and how do we stop that from happening.
It's truly amazing to think about all the different aspects that you touch of a child's life. As we sit here right now, mid to late April, what is the greatest need that kiddos in our area need right now?
Mid to late April. So, people are getting out of school. Right now,
Right.
Everybody's just kind of like, it's testing time. Mm-hmm. Let's get through this. Really, we're trying to get the morale of the teachers. Like, come on, hang in there and getting kids excited about testing. Mm-hmm. That is so important in our community because we know that these state standardized tests are what helps to drive those APR scores and what our district's accreditation looks like. Mm-hmm. And so right now we are really doing a lot to promote, like, get ready for the test, get your sleep, do all those things. So this is, then we get into the summer months, right? And we're saying we do a push for shorts and tennis shoes because, we want to keep our kids warm in the wintertime, the coats and the boots and all those things. But we want our kids to get out and enjoy the sun. We want them to run. We want them to have a fun time so that they can get it all out their system and come back and ready to learn in the fall. So we are doing kind of a summer send-off to make sure kids have what they need so they can be cool for the summer. But other than that, our community as a whole, this is such a great time of need because, it's coming up on the 1 year of the tornado. Mm-hmm. And we were at the school the day we were fanned out all over the city at all the different field days the day of the tornado. And the last school that I went to was Ashland on that day, and that's one of the school communities that was hit the hardest. And that school was almost rocked from its foundation. We don't know if it will ever open again. In fact, my HR director, her mom was in the school at the time. She works at the school. And so the next day we were out on the truck making sure people had water and like, what can we do to help? How can we all mobilize? We ended up going from there to having different boutiques and resource centers that we worked with St. Louis Public Schools in various locations, as well as in one of the charter schools. So we started making sure families had those things. And now, even today, we are still following about 520 families with the help of the St. Louis Education Fund. And they started a regional rapid response team through the St. Louis Community Foundation. So we're working in concert with them to try to locate these families and see, did you find a home? What school district are you in? Are you interested in coming back to St. Louis Public Schools? Is there any way that we can help you do that? So that need is there's so much need right now. And we are just here to try to help as much as we possibly can.
That's something with the tornado that just everything changed for so many families. But specifically for the Little Bit Foundation, to be fair, you guys did not have to jump in the way you did. It was one of the last days of school. Mm-hmm. You don't visit the schools as much during the summer, just in general, because the kiddos are out. Your team could have said, we're so sorry this happened. We'll do what we can right now, but once summer break starts, we need to focus on the next school year. You guys worked harder in the summer, out of the school year, providing for those families. Why did you decide to do that?
Well, there are families. In fact, there are many people that worked a little bit that were right in the middle of the tornado area as well. A lot of us come from the communities that we serve. So we felt like our obligation to step up and do what needed to be done. But also even more deeply affecting our organization is we knew what it was like to be homeless. Coming off of our flood in 2022 and losing everything. And people still don't realize what it means when your whole building is underwater, like 4.5 inches of rushing water, where it's like, we need to get a pencil and some paper and start over. We knew what it was like to lose everything and to have to start over. So it was so much more, and the community stepped up for us. Mm-hmm. There were people, American Water came and helped us dig out, and people made donations, and extra volunteers came to help us get back on our feet. So we knew what it took for us to get back, like help get people back on their feet. We know what it felt like to be in that situation as an agency. And so, I look at pictures now of a little bit that there's just one picture where it's like completely underwater. It looks like a ship. And it was like, this is, my mom said, it looks like a sinking ship. And I would get mad and say, no, Mom, it's not a sinking ship. We're gonna rise above this. And now it's our hope that we can tell our story and show other people that you can rise above this. And we're here to help you just like people helped us.
And we are going to continue sharing the story because the Little Bit Foundation is resilient, just like all the families and the kiddos that it serves. I'm sitting here with Miranda Walker-Jones. And if you have ever wanted to find out more about nonprofits and just how connected they are and how prominent they are in Missouri, we encourage you to share this episode with some of your family members, with some of your friends, anyone that you've ever had a conversation with about, I wish there is something I could do to help someone else. There is. A little bit goes a very long way. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more of Live with Laura right after this. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning outside, and it's a pretty great Tuesday morning inside as I sit across from Miranda Walker-Jones, the CEO of the Little Bit Foundation. And Miranda, I want to know more about you. It takes a unique person to dedicate their life to service and nonprofits. When did you realize that was the path you were going to take?
Oh, okay. We're going deep today, huh? So I'll tell the story. I went to St. Philip's Catholic School. It's now called Sister Thea Bowman Catholic School. And I used to always go out because I was late for school all the time. We just have a late thing going on in our family. And when you were late for school, they made you eat peanut butter because they already put the lunch count in. And it was just terrible. It was a peanut butter sandwich, terrible. So I would take the little bread and go out and feed the birds. And it was like a little terrace that they had. And one of the nuns said, "Oh, you remind me so much of St. Francis of Assisi. And he was the patron saint of the birds. And he loved to do things for people in the community. And you're just like that. You like to do things for people in the community." And I was thinking, yeah, I was just trying to get rid of the bread for real. But that kind of stuck with me. Like the whole thing about service and giving back and how like somebody actually saw like giving those little breadcrumbs, like that made her think of something so much bigger. And for some reason, I think I probably was in the third, fourth grade at the time, for that story to stick. And I think about like those little bitty things. And along my lifetime, I grew up in a single parent home. At one point, we in our room, it was 2 bunk beds and a twin bed. And me, my brother, and my mom slept in that same room. And we lived with our cousins that were both 70, 80 years old at the time. So we had a very different family structure. But I had a village, growing up in East St. Louis that was around me that always helped to make sure that, I had what I needed. I didn't really realize that we were a poor family. I thought we were the richest family in the world. But we would get like 1 box of rice and share it. I thought, when I first saw a person eating their own box of rice, I was like, oh my God, that's like for your whole family, not like for somebody as an individual. So I grew up in very, very humble family, very a strong family with lots of really important ties to the community, but very community-minded, community-focused, always doing something, rather it was political or, owning a pharmacy at the time. My cousin owned the first African-American pharmacy in East St. Louis at the time. He was one of the first to ever graduate from the University of Illinois with a pharmacy degree. And the family has always done something that was about giving back. So I come from really strong roots with that. And knowing that, I was a kid that didn't have a lot. And I saw how just people pouring into me helped me to get over to the next level. I ended up going to Mizzou. And at Mizzou, I was one of those people like, oh my gosh, here she comes again, at LBC or whatever she was fighting for, was always fighting for something. I also worked with the Rams in community relations, so we were able to get football players going out into the community and using their resources to give back. So, I always said it would be such an awesome thing to have a job where you're giving back and you're doing stuff for the community, but you're getting paid for it at the same time. That's nonprofit. right? It's work. It is hard work. You're doing something all the time. You're giving back, but it's rooted in me because of, my struggle, where I came from. It's really important to me that we're giving back to kids that are going to be the future. And having, all of these resources now that I'm able to do that is just such a amazing thing. It's such a blessing. And so, it comes from very deep, Laura.
And going back to third grade, you were doing this, but sometimes it does help when a teacher or an adult or someone you look up to names the thing that you are doing.
Yes.
And don't you think in all the schools that Little Bit serves right now, there is a teacher connecting with a third grader that is going to say something that's going to set that child on a path?
Absolutely. They set the tone. There are so many. The teachers out here, are so amazing. It's a hard job. They're probably real underpaid. And my daughter, who is going into education now, she's like, we got to take our lunch every day because we don't really get a lunch break. You get 30 minutes, eat really fast, get back in the classroom. And, you're on all day long and you're changing the lives of kids all day. You just never know what you're going to say to that kid that is going to stick with them. Like that stuck with me for so long. And our staff, we have staff that's in the schools every day, from Mackenzie to Shay to, William. They're saying something that is going to stick with the child and, sharing their life and their struggle. So you're absolutely right, Laura. You just never know what little thing is going to plant that seed that's going to, create the next doctor, the next lawyer, the next Laura, right? The next Laura that we can, our future. I'm so excited about, having that opportunity to plant those seeds.
And I feel the excitement and the passion, and that makes me excited for the next phase of Little Bit. Where do you see the future of this organization going? Because for those who are with us at the start, a coat drive 25 years ago, now this huge nonprofit that serves the whole child in all these different ways.
So I scratched my head. I was like, oh, that's a big question. Where are we going? Right? Where are we growing? I think we're going to continue growing. Right now, this is a very difficult time for nonprofits across the board. So right now, we are priding ourselves on maintaining a nice growth pattern where we can utilize the funding that we have in a very wise way. It's been a difficult fundraising atmosphere. When gas goes up, people hold on to their money a little bit more. When there's instability, people don't tend to be as generous as they normally are. And as we know, St. Louis has a ton of nonprofits. In fact, the state of Missouri has probably more nonprofits than anywhere in the country, which is crazy to think. Like Missouri, why is that? But it's also because people in Missouri have such big hearts, and we're very generous, and we are always trying to fix something. We're fixers. Missouri, show me. I'm gonna show you this. I'm gonna fix this for you, right? So that's the nature and the heart of Missourians. But it also makes it really difficult when you have so many nonprofits for funders to decide, who am I going to donate to? Who is making the most impact? That goes back to us talking about us having a collective impact and making sure that organizations look at us as an organization that we know if we give them their money, they're going to be good stewards of the money. They're going to make sure that all the organizations that need to, be involved in helping to do whatever that mission is, that they're going to share generously with those organizations. And I think that's really important right now. So our growth is really going to depend on what happens in the next few years in terms of how people are able to donate and how we're able to keep fundraising and growing the organization. It's been tough. I mean, post-flood for us, we had to get a new building, we had to get a new home. And, while we are still very secure as an organization, it's going to take the generosity and really organizations stepping up to help us to continue our growth pattern financially. But in terms of programming, look, we have so much untapped things. College career readiness, like this year, I'm telling them they're here now. You're hearing it now. We're going to be doing some college tours coming up here. We're really going to deepen some of our ties to industries here in St. Louis. Our goal is to try to keep our talent here. And starting really young, we started elementary school talking about college and careers. When you get to middle school, high school, we have Boeing, right here in our own backyard. So many engineering jobs right here in Boeing. We are becoming the bio capital, technological capital of the world. I think we're like second in the world right now when you look at the Cortex and all the different jobs down there. Geospatial, NGA, the geospatial. UMSL just started a new engineering program right here in St. Louis, and they're looking for people to fill these slots. I mean, Boeing has tons of job openings. There's also other jobs in St. Louis that you don't think about. The water company, which is, right there on Riverview, they actually have like over 100 openings because they're people who've been working at the water company have been working there for years and years. So we have a generation of workers that are aging out. And they're not developing new people that are even thinking about working at a water treatment plant as a career. And it's a great career. You can make a lot of money working at the water treatment center. So we have to understand what the industry demands in St. Louis, and we're trying to create programs that fill that demand. So when we talk about getting engineers in front of our kids, doing lunch and learns, or doing college tours and making sure they understand, like, you have UMSL right here in Missouri, S&T right down the street, and Mizzou right down with great engineering schools. We want to get these kids more involved in those things. We're hoping that we're going to be ramping up our mental health services. Like, that's one of the things that's on the table. And, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a chance to be able to get more case managers in front of kids, be able to attach them to behavioral health services. So those are two areas that I see tremendous growth in over the next couple of years.
And I'm so impressed because sometimes when there's a problem, you have to focus on putting the fire out right now. But looking beyond, especially with the college and career readiness, if a child gets an opportunity to stay in St. Louis at Boeing, and that child then becomes an adult and has kids, it's just going to change generations of that family or any of the companies that you mentioned.
Yeah, we all know about the dumpster fire, right? We gotta put
it out.
There's a lot of those, I'm okay, you're okay. But beyond that, once the dumpster fire, move that out of the way and look at all of the possibilities beyond what is maybe burning in front of us right now. And the fact is that St. Louis has so many opportunities, and I take a lot of pride in St. Louis. 314 Day is a big thing for me, even though I'm 6182, I claim all of it.
Yes.
We are well positioned in the state. We drive the economy of the state of Missouri. When you look at Kansas City and St. Louis. And then, yes, you have Branson and all the great things that are happening down there. But when you look at Boeing and all of these big companies that are right here in St. Louis, Ameren and just all of these companies that support us, for us not to think that we need to build the workforce and get our students ready so that they can have careers in those areas. There are so many people, when you talk to people that came from out of the area to come work at these companies, and our kids are like, right here. We have to develop them so that they can be ready to take these great jobs.
And I often think you don't know what you don't know, but you also don't know what you're not exposed to.
Exactly.
And the fact that you're bringing people in that these kids can connect to and realize, well, they're just like me. You have no idea what light bulb that's going to turn on in their mind.
Yeah, we have one group, Abner and Associates. It's an engineering company owned by a married couple, Abe and Nicole Alawade. And they will come out and speak to these kids all the time. And they are so down to earth. And when they say, well, what is your biggest project? So, the bridge between the tunnel right there between the airport, they're like, oh, yeah, we helped do the construction on the tunnel. And they're like, what? And they're like, well, how much money do you have? And they're like talking to them. And this is real. Like, you can tangibly see these projects. A friend of mine who's another engineer, he actually put the last screw in the bridge, the new bridge, and he'll go out and talk to people, and he's like, these are big projects that are changing the face of St. Louis, and our kids should be a part of it and know that there are opportunities for them to do this kind of work.
Your kids had a really cool opportunity about 2 weeks ago with some NFL players who have some very cool connections to St. Louis. What happened?
Yeah, so Chris Long Foundation, long time coming. And it's so funny. Let me talk about this connection between the Rams. So
Yes.
I worked for the Rams. My husband worked for the Rams. That's how we got connected. We were actually connected by Coach March's secretary. She played matchmaker. Long story. We'll talk about that later. So we came from the Rams. My board chair, Sarah Bowman, was an intern at the Rams. And Merritt McCarthy, who also works, she worked for the Rams. So I'm like, if there's anyone that's going to continue giving back to St. Louis through the Rams, it should be the Little Bit Foundation.
Yes.
We were all born there. So Chris Long, former Ram player, we've been talking about what he's doing in Charlottesville and in Philadelphia, all the places that he played and where he came from. And he also does a water project, making sure that there's clean water in Africa. Great guy, great guy. Great looking guy too. His wife, me and him, we're cool. She's good looking.
Yes.
Right? Mackenzie will tell you. So he walks in the room and all the kids, he's actually doing these things called Ed Zone, where they're doing hygiene items and very similar to the work that we do here in St. Louis. So instead of recreating the wheel, we decided to partner. This is that collective impact. We're already in a school, so now, especially in middle school, we put these lockers in there where kids can go and get great hygiene products. I'm talking the stuff, the gel, the great toothpaste,
the patches,
the pimple patches.
Yep.
They're like, I have pimple patches.
Yep. They're great.
And so we decided to focus on middle school because middle school is they're not high school where they get a lot of programs or the little kids and people love the little kids. Those middle school kids are the ones that probably need the most attention that they just don't get. And we can see it, manifesting itself in our community where a lot of things that are happening, tragic things where 13-year-olds are, killing 13-year-olds, that we have to focus on those kids because they're still babies. They're not mature enough quite yet to rationalize and think through some things. They're trying to find stuff to do. There's not a lot of things for middle schoolers to do. They don't want to go and see Barney, but they're not old enough to play on a varsity team yet.
And so much of what they come up with,
it's on those phones. And so trying to put positivity in front of them. So we had Chris Long came out to visit the school. We went to Yateman. And we also had, his name is Colin. He actually plays for, who does he play for now? The Jets. So I think he plays for the Jets now.
He was with the Chiefs for a long time.
He's with the Chiefs. Yes, he was with the Chiefs.
From St. Louis.
From St. Louis, went to Parkway. He also went to Western Illinois University. So he's a local guy, but he came in, talked to the kids. He's like, I'm from the same area you're from. I lived right down the street here. I eat at the same fast food restaurants, the same Chinese food restaurants that you guys did. These kids gravitated toward him, and then Chris got there, and they all I don't know what happened. They were all on their shoulders, and they were having sign my eyeglasses. Don't do that. Mom's gonna kill us. Don't sign it. And somebody sign my little brother. They were signing autographs. It was such a fun time, and they didn't leave. They stayed there. They even talked to some of the guys that played football now. They sat down and had a whole conversation with them and, went through the lockers with them. So it was just an amazing opportunity. And, Chris is coming back. We're going to have other NFL players that were taken out. And it's not talking about being an NFL player. It's talking about the work ethic. It's talking about what it takes for discipline and the things that you need to do in order to get to the next level, whether that's playing in the NFL or being a doctor or whatever it is. All these things take discipline, practice, hard work, and that's what they're going out and talking to these kids about.
And I'm sure those are things that the teachers and the principals talk about every single day. But it's a big difference when it comes from Colin Saunders, who is huge, or Chris Long, who has a Super Bowl winning ring on his finger.
Right. Both of them have rings. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Okay, everybody in the room has a ring. So
yes.
For them to see that, and I'll tell you, the principal was probably the most excited. We had him play Vanna White and take the microphone out, but he kept asking the questions. We like, come on, Dr. Crumble, can you let the kids answer some questions? But Dr. Crumble, and that whole team at Yateman and St. Louis Public Schools, they had some of their administrators there. It was the same day that they announced the new superintendent. So I was like, we can't get everybody here because of, all that great news that they delivered. But we are just, they talked about how down to earth they were and just how great of a program it was, that they were just so, one of the kids. They just felt like, it was amazing. So I'm so grateful to the Chris Long Foundation, to Nancy and Portia and all the people that make the stuff happen behind the scenes. and that, this is not a short-term partnership. This is a long-term partnership. We added 2 schools in the fall. So we did Central Middle School in Riverview, Jennings Middle School. Now we're doing Yateman, and the next school is Long Middle School, which Chris, of course, wanted Long. So Long, we're coming for you next, Long. We're coming. We're going to have some fun with the kids at Long, and that's what's going on.
But what's so interesting is the fact that St. Louis gets in people's mind and heart, and it doesn't leave. Chris Long hasn't played down a football as a Ram in over a decade. Yeah. He won the Super Bowl in LA. I have lots of thoughts on that. He would not. He doesn't have to be here. He's from Charlottesville. Makes sense that he would do everything there.
Right.
But the fact that St. Louis made such an impact on him that he comes back year after year and reinvests into the kids, I think that speaks the world of our community in general.
Oh, St. Louis sticks with you. Once you're 314, or some people 618, 618,
yes,
or 636 now, because you can't get too many 314 numbers. They're going, yes, but it sticks with you. And he said, he got off the airplane and he was driving down 70. He said, oh, okay, this looks the same. This feels the same, is familiar to him. And he just, he felt like the people here. It's the people here. Rather you realize it or not, we're a big old Southern town, right? With all of the great, what do you call it? Hospitality, Southern hospitality, so we say. And people still speak to each other. People still, I saw a guy this morning working on an air conditioner neighbor's house, and he's like, good morning to you. Hey, good morning to you. We're still those people. And I think that's where that heart, it's why we have so many nonprofits in St. Louis and in Missouri. It's because we do have big hearts here.
And to keep the nonprofits going, they need volunteers, which I would like to get into right after this commercial break. As we do take it, though, think about, do you have an extra hour or 2 in your week, especially as we come upon summer? Are you going to have some extra time? If you want to make a big difference, little bit could be your landing place. We'll get into the details about how you can volunteer and the types of volunteer work you can do with them coming up next on Live with Laura. As we wrap up another conversation here on Live with Laura, I want to take a moment to talk about all the different volunteer opportunities. Because while, yes, the Little Bit Foundation would gladly take anyone's hard-earned money, they would also take their time.
We need lots of time. So we're in 60 schools with 17,500 children. There are about 35 people that work at Little Bit. We cannot do this work alone. So we rely on our volunteers. We have about 100 volunteers. About 60 of them are in the warehouse. They come weekly in the warehouse. And then we have others that are actually at the school that work in the boutiques. When we go to the boutiques, we don't just drop off the clothes. We actually try the clothes on with the students. We have a volunteer seamstress that if the clothes are a little too short or too long, she will hem them up. So we have volunteer hemmers. We're always looking for more people to help hem. We have the volunteers at the schools that work in the boutiques. We have volunteers that work at our mobile food markets or in our food markets that we have in the school. So we have volunteers there. And at the warehouse, we have the funnest volunteers. We have the Thursday crew. They come in every Thursday. Sometimes I forget that they don't work there at Little Bit, that they help and they sort the clothes. They help pack all the items. We have volunteer groups that come in. You can, if your business wants to do a fun bonding opportunity, this is a great opportunity. Call us, come in. We've had several banks, everything from Centene has come and volunteered. We've had all the different banks. St. Louis Community Credit Union comes in and volunteers quite often. Together Credit Union, of course. We have just all kind of different groups. We have schools that come in to volunteer. We just had Jennings did their day of service. We also had some of the kids from St. Peter's come over. So it's a great way for students to get their community service hours. I know a lot of kids, in order to graduate, schools have a requirement that they do community service. We do that a little bit. So there are so many different ways to volunteer. We also have a great group of 27 people, 28 when you include Jack, who is with our Young Professional Committee. We have a Young Professional Board and Young Friends friends of Little Bit. They come in and they do volunteer work. They help fundraise. They do different programs with Little Bit. But those 27 people that I talked about is our board of directors, which we just happen to have a great one, a really great one, that gives her time, her resources, doing stuff like Laura's Run for Kids, that really helps this organization. And I can't tell you, like, that time that you all give as board members, it's amazing. It really, it's heartwarming, because I don't think you guys realize, people who are on boards and who are helping us to fundraise and do those things, we can't do this without you. And we are so thankful. We are so thankful for our board members. We're thankful, so thankful for you, Laura, to have your name on the run, Laura's Run, and the little silhouette. That's little Laura, I call her, little Laura on the T-shirts. But it's so more, people don't understand it's not just your name and you helping us to get the word out. You actually write notes to people, and you do so many things behind the scenes to make this run work, and your spirit and the love that you give to us. We're just so grateful.
I appreciate those words more than you know. And my mom was a special education teacher. My sister is now a principal. And I look at them as educators, and I have said to my mom, I can never make the impact that you guys do. I don't have those skills. And my mom has routinely said, no, you can't in the same way as an educator, but you do have a megaphone.
You have a megaphone.
And figure out how to use it. And I think we all have something that we can give to an organization. And mentioning how many nonprofits there are in the St. Louis area, that's really exciting too. Whether your passion is for helping children or helping dogs or helping veterans or helping single moms, there's an organization for every type of love that you have in your heart.
Laura, you're going to make me tear up over here. I'm like trying to hold it together, because you know, you are such a rare jewel in the community, because your sincerity and love comes through. And you know, you don't give back just to us, but the St. Louis Crisis Nursery, which, you know, again, that collective impact. We use the Crisis Nursery when we have to send someone who is in crisis to make sure their kids are taken care of. You know how vitally important it is that all these things are interconnected, and you use your megaphone, your microphone, your airtime, and KMOV, you know, thank you for letting, you know, Laura do those things that are so near and dear to her heart, and that really strike our community in ways that I don't think sometimes you realize. And I know you're busy. You got the babies and the husband and all the things, but she makes time to give back to the community. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. It could be a little time. We're a little bit foundation. We need a little bit, just a little bit. We'll just take a little bit. But you just don't understand how 2 hours a week, those in-school volunteers that we have some that have been with us for 20 years. They go to the school every week. They become part of the fabric of that school. And the kids look forward, you know, is Mo coming today? Is Miss Mo going to be here today? And different volunteers that just, it becomes part of their world, and it doesn't even feel like, you know, like you want more after those 2 hours. Oh, it's over. It's only been 2 hours. And those mobile food markets, when we're giving out food to the families in the community. And one of our big partners is the St. Louis Police Department, St. Louis City Police Department. They're with us at every food market, not protecting, but serving, the part of protect and serve. They carry the food out to people's cars. They help us unload and box stuff. And they just do it because they're there, and they have a little extra time to be able to help us with that. And so, you know, we have so many partners, and partners you don't even think. The fire department in Maryland Heights, they come and teach us how to do CPR, and they're right down the street from us. Like, there are so many ways that organizations can connect and that volunteers can come and show up and help this community.
It all goes back to the community. That's how we started this conversation. And with the police, I remember one of my first stories here back in 2012. I was talking to the then police chief off camera in between hits, and he just talked about community policing. And at the time, I was a very young reporter, and I just was not gathering what he was saying. But essentially, these students seeing the police officers in a way that they are helping, instead of the scariest moments that police unfortunately have to go to, and that unfortunately kids see. What a gift that they can see cops in other lights too, and connect that they're just people.
And they're just people, you know, and some of the calls that they have to go on, I can't even imagine them having to show up and then they go back and they have their own kids at home and to worry. I have a cousin that was an officer, and she, mentally, like, she was just like, this is so hard, her being a mom and having to do the things that she had to see and go through. I know there's one police officer, St. Louis County Police, they came and they said, hey, can you help us get some car seats? Because sometimes if they have a call and they have to pick up a kid, they want to keep them safe, and they're putting them in car seats. They're thinking about all the ways. Again, it's the protect, but there's the serve part that we often forget with the police, that we get a chance to see it. One day they were playing soccer at one of the schools, and we had a mobile food market at the same time. We just happened to have lemonade was one of the things, and the officer was like, well, let's get a lemonade to the kids. And the next thing I know, they're out there watching them and playing soccer with them. These are people that are a big part of our community, and we have a lot of healing to do as a community. We know everything that happened in 2014 in our community, and the opposition that the cops in the community had. And I think that St. Louis is now taking the time and healing and understanding that we have to work together, that, we are all people and we have to see each other as people.
I think it's interesting that the police officers called Little Bit to help with the car seats.
Right.
Because that's not what you do. But I bet you got that call and you're like, we will get you car seats.
Absolutely.
And you picked up the agency that you knew.
It called
would have
Helping
the car
Hand-Me-Downs.
Yes,
Helping
they
Hand-Me-Downs,
got
and
it
the
to
diaper
them.
bank, and said, what do you need? And
Yes, because
that's exactly what
it all
happened.
goes back to saying, this is a problem. I'm going to figure out how we can all fix it together.
Yes. And I'm so proud of all the CEOs and all of the organizations, how hard all of them work, from Brandon over at the Boys and Girls Club to Indigo at Coca, all of these different, you have Rung, you have so many amazing agencies in the St. Louis region that, they show up for each other and, show up for this community every day. And like, and they're people too, right? With kids and the dog that is sick and all the different things and still giving back to the community. So, big shout out to St. Louis and to the heart of St. Louis, to your heart, to the heart of KMOV for allowing, us to have this kind of platform to talk about so much good that's happening in the community, and, taking all of the pain and all of the things that have happened in the community and turning it, finding those silver linings, right, to the clouds. And, as we celebrate our silver anniversary coming up, 25 years of work in this community, and, we're only just starting. This is really the beginning.
It's going to be fascinating to see what Little Bit does over the next 25 years, all the people you impact. And friends, you do have a chance to be part of it. This Saturday, the 9th annual Laura's Run for Kids, benefiting the Little Bit Foundation, Tower Grove Park. You can still register right now, firstalert4.com/run. We have a preview of the Run t-shirt. It's this beautiful blue teal color. All of our awesome sponsors are on the back. I think registration, thank you, Jesse. One shot.
Yes.
Thank you. Well done, sir. I think registration is $35.
Yes.
But as you mentioned, it comes with so much. Chick-fil-A has been a longtime sponsor.
Yes.
Thank you. The Kolache Factory with Jenny Smith there on Brentwood Boulevard. Thank you. So you get a lot. You get a shirt, you get a medal, you get some exercise, you get food, you get happiness.
All of it. It's so worth it. And, to our sponsors, the Slocum family, Centene Foundation, Andy Seasoning, all of these big sponsors that we have. And then we have so many other sponsors, as you talked about. Chick-fil-A, I can't wait. Eric Benting brings those Chick-fil-A, and he's at the Sunset Hills Chick-fil-A. There's so many Chick-fil-A's all around. And we are just so proud of how the community shows up and continues to show up for this run. I will say this. We are just... we talked about you don't have to run because people think run. You can walk. People know I just had knee surgery. So I might be with the crawling crew, though I feel good today. That's a whole nother story.
Yes.
Feel good today. But, you can ride your bike out there. We had some people that were on bikes, just followed the run. But just coming out there, going to the different vendors, playing with the clowns, twisting the balloons. The clown, what is it, the Clown Federation or?
The Trinity Church.
Trinity, what is it, Trinity Church Clown? Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Yes, Trinity Church Clown.
I think so.
They are recruiting too. They
so
are
there
recruiting.
You go. If
they
you've
are
ever
recruiting.
wanted to be a clown, you can learn more.
Yes, they're bringing their whole crew.
Good.
But they are like, hey, we're getting a little old for this. We need some new young clowns. Yes. So one of our staff said he always wanted to be a clown. If he had known then, William Hardrick, this was your opportunity to become a clown. And so come out there, learn the industry of clowning. Mm-hmm. It is an industry.
It is, yes.
And we'll have them out there. We'll have DJ Nooney out there. He will teach you how to be a DJ. So, there's so many fun things that are going to happen at this run. Again, thank you to you for being, the inspiration behind all of this and for your 9 years of dedication to doing this. We're going to make this run the biggest and best ever. Again, thank you to KMOV for providing the weather.
Yes.
Yes, the weather. I'm so excited.
Be a great day. Thank you for the gift of your time today. And thank you for everything that you are doing to make our city even better. This has been a fun discussion and I think eye-opening for a lot of people too.
Yes.
It's a lot happening in the nonprofit world.
It's a lot happening.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Until next time, friends, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.